One Piece chapter 1038. Now, interesting chain of events for sure in terms of the actual progression. In this chapter, we actually got through a lot of things and we deviated to a lot of different parts to see how each character is holding up, as well as setups to things that we will be seeing moving forward. For example, Izo versus the CP0. And there was also something that was very interesting that happened in this chapter with Zoro, and I think I have an idea as to what is going on there because that was not something that we usually see. Initially, I thought it was Brook, but there's definitely more to it. But as usual, before we keep going, I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video and hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content. First things first, let's start with the Zoro section because I feel like that is the more interesting part of the chapter, apart from Big Mom versus Law and Kid. Now, before we dive into this situation, we need to realize one thing about Zoro's condition before we get the whole picture. But here we deviate to Chopper, in which he talks about how Zoro could be in a lot of trouble in terms of his condition, right? And this is due partly to the medication / remedy that he took so that he can recover. But if you guys remember, that remedy also had a drawback in which all the damage that Zoro has taken so far will come back several times worse. Obviously, this is the damage that he sustained from his battle with King, and Zoro did take a lot of beating from King. Actually, when you think about it, the majority of the fight was Zoro taking damage. So if this multiplier comes back to hit him, we don't know what would happen. He would definitely not be conscious when that damage returns. And this is why Chopper is super fearful for Zoro right now, hoping that he actually finishes battle with King, which Zoro has defeated King. But it's not entirely over yet. And this is very reminiscent of Thriller Bark. Whereas with Wano, we might see Zoro come out of this arc with injuries that might affect him post Wano, right? Depending on how Wano will end, it's very likely that they will get some rest once everything is done and finished. But with the presence of CP0, the Marines come into Wano, will the Straw Hats even have any time to rest? That's really a question that should be talked about here. Now, I do think that the Straw Hats will have some downtime after everything is finished, but it's not going to be for long because the Marines are going to come 100 man deep into Wano, with the possibility of an admiral showing up or with the presence of the SSG. But as of right now, out of any of the Straw Hats, apart from Luffy, Zoro's condition is extremely severe, and we sort of get a glimpse as to how severe this is. And here we deviate to Zoro, and we come to find out that he's unable to move, and there's also some sort of Grim Reaper that's appeared in front of him. Now, initially I thought this was Brook because that was the first thing that came to mind, and I thought it could be some sort of fake out that Oda does where something happens in one chapter and then the opposite happens in the next, whereas here it does look like Brook is trying to attack Zoro, but then in the next chapter we come to see that Brook was actually attacking someone behind Zoro, right? Something of that sort. It wouldn't pass Oda to do something like this. But again, that wouldn't make a lot of sense because why is Brook here? We know that Brook is currently with Robin, and I doubt that Brook would leave Robin knowing that she's a target of the CP0. So that's even more reason to stay with Robin than to actually go check up on someone else. Second of all, in this panel, it does seem like this person or entity is trying to attack Zoro, and Zoro has a bad sensation about it. So I think this leaves Brook completely out of the question. And I think what Zoro is actually seeing here is the manifestation of death itself. Perhaps when someone is about to die, this is what they see in front of them. Again, One Piece is a supernatural show, so I don't think this is something out of the realm of possibility for a show like One Piece. Actually, it makes even more sense for it to be here just because death has a lot of meaning in the One Piece world, right? So death being a manifestation and something that's actually kind of real is kind of cool in a sense. It could also give some context to the whole D thing where people from the D clan, they always smile when they die. And what if they're actually smiling when this entity shows up? Which shouldn't be the case because you would be terrified. Again, I feel like this mysterious entity is probably death itself manifesting in the last moments of a person's life, and this is essentially telling us that Zoro could be close to death, and that's why he's seeing these things. Now, we know that Frankie is pretty close to Zoro, so I think that's how Zoro is going to get saved, and maybe Frankie then sort of brings him to Chopper, and then things move on from there. But if this is the manifestation of death, then this is crazy, and it opens up a whole new world in terms of the supernatural aspect of the One Piece world, specifically in regards to death itself. So very interesting stuff here that happened to Zoro. and I want to see where this is leading towards. Now, there is also a possibility that this could be an actual person as well, whether he's from the Beast Pirates or potentially CP0. We don't know, but I feel like any of those choices don't really make any sense because of how this entity looks, and Zoro saying that he has a weird feeling about it means it might be supernatural in nature. But yeah, now before moving on to Kid and Law versus Big Mom, let's talk about the current state of Onigashima in terms of the different floors. Now on the third floor, we have the battle of Fukurokuju and Raizo still taking place. If you guys remember, they are both using some sort of technique that keeps each other in place and are essentially in a deadlock. And what makes this very dangerous right now is because the castle is in flames and it's spreading everywhere, and none of them so far wants to release their technique. Raizo so far being the first to be caught in the flames, but even then he doesn't want to release it. Fukurokuju on the other hand is getting desperate as the fire closes in, and the difference between these two guys is very obvious. It's conviction. Raizo came here to fulfill the dream of Odin, and having to have witnessed Odin go through something like being boiled in hot oil in the flower capital, I would imagine that Raizo feels like this is nothing in comparison to what Odin faced, right? And is holding through because of that. On the other hand, Fukurokuju just wants to survive. Now, not exactly sure how this is going to end, but as of right now, while it does look like Fukurokuju has the upper hand, we definitely know that Raizo has more willpower. Ultimately, it does seem like Raizo will overcome this, or it ends in a draw in some way, shape, or form. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, moving on, we get to see a scene with Izo making it out injured from his previous fight, and surprisingly, he ends up meeting CP0. Initially, they were supposed to take him out given that he's from a very prominent pirate crew, but it seems like the priority on the Straw Hats has more of a focus, specifically in the case of Robin. Now, Izo, having heard this, could not allow them to move forward, and I would assume that they will most likely engage in battle. And given the way that this scene was portrayed, it seems like this is going to be a win for CP0 again. Now, they defeated X-Drake, and it looks like they might take out Izo here as well, given that he's been through so many battles at this point and is very injured. So yeah, I think CP0 most likely gets rid of Izo here. Not sure if he's gonna die, but he's gonna get defeated for sure. But this was definitely a cool moment for Izo though. Now, moving on to Yamato, here we get to see that she's finally made it to the basement right before the flame demon makes it, in which she's able to stop an explosion from happening with the use of her ice abilities. But it isn't exactly over yet, as the flame demon seems to be melting all the ice, so she has to do something to sort of thwart that from happening, and so she attacks it. Again, when it comes to these stuff with the basement, I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but Yamato is obviously very key here, as she does have ice related abilities, so she can counteract the ice demon, the flame demon, to some extent, so that would obviously help stop any bombs from triggering. And finally, we move on to the end of the chapter with Big Mom, Law, and Kid. Now, while Law and Kid have done a lot of damage to Big Mom, it isn't exactly enough, but it is still very impressive that they've kept up with her this whole time. Kid even more so, just because he was nerfed at the initial stages of this fight. And we also have to remember that this is a serious Big Mom, and what makes Big Mom really dangerous is that when you fight her, you're not only fighting her but also the homies that she creates, and that can be really detrimental in a fight if you don't have the durability to normally withstand the attacks. So instead of being focused on one thing, with Big Mom there's several things you have to focus on, which makes it more difficult. And apart from her devil fruit ability, she also possesses physical strength comparable to Kaido, so it's a lot to deal with here. But while it does seem like she has the upper hand here, Law and Kid have still not given out yet, as the one thing that they will not allow is Big Mom getting to the rooftop. And it feels like they now have more trust in Luffy now, whereas they fully believe that he's capable of defeating Kaido. And it's gotten to the point where they will do anything to stop Big Mom from going up there. Obviously, Kid has gone through something in which he's found a new reason to keep fighting. So this was honestly a dope scene with, Law and Kid fight a Yonko in a 2v1. It's honestly showing how far these supernovas have come, especially when it comes to Law and Kid, given that they are not in the main light and are usually in the backgrounds when it comes to things, right? So seeing them having this crazy glow up here is honestly amazing. amazing. I do also want to point out that Big Mom seems to be puffing a lot in this chapter, so I assume that she is also getting tired and weakening to some extent. Now, even though it does seem like they are holding her back from getting to the rooftop, they are also putting some serious damage on Big Mom that could honestly result in her defeat later on, because if you defeat Kaido, you have to worry about Big Mom as well. So both of these Yonkos have to get KO'd at some point, not permanently, but KO'd, right? Now, Big Mom's story might not necessarily end here, but Kaido most likely will. So I do think that Law and Kid will KO out Big Mom at some point, and it would be cool if we get to see new things from them in the same sense that we have individuals like Luffy and Zoro getting new abilities mid-fight. If Haki truly blooms in the most extreme conditions of fight, I think it makes a lot of sense for at least Kid or Law to bloom in something, right? It could be Devil Fruit or even Haki, and that would prove that other characters can attain new levels in the middle of a fight, because it does seem like Awakening isn't enough to take Big Mom out, so we need more power to actually do that. They are doing damage, but it's not enough. We need that final blow to actually put her down for the count. But overall, this was a really good chapter. Looking forward to how Kid and Law will handle Big Mom. I'm actually interested in seeing how this battle is going to play out, specifically the finale of it. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Comment down below what you guys think. I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. Subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. Hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content. You can follow me on Twitter at FerroSpace. But it is Ferro, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.